Okay, so we are back for Sutra number 1.3 in Energy Over Matter series of Patanjali Sutra. So again, we're going to break it down like we did last time, where we're going to look at each word in the Sanskrit saying individually, and then we'll put it all together in translations. So tada means then and then. So this one is interesting because to me it denotes the fact that you're in the present moment, because you were then and then you were then. So you're never in the past or in the future, you're always just in the then and at any time when. And so this one again is like any time when what? Any time when we're in one pose, when we're in one formation, in one school of thought, in one fluctuation. And the next one at the present time, again, the now. And then the last one meaning always. So this is the forever and the eternal. So mountain is what most people think of when they think of it, tada. So that is like the mountain pose when we say tadasana, which is an asana pose. So a mountain is immovable. So I would say that this is the same thing as all those words we just reviewed, because if you have something that's always and it's then, that is something like a mountain that remains and it is immovable. So the clouds are like our mind, though, and our thoughts and the fluctuations. So they cannot move the mountain, but the mountain likewise cannot stop the clouds. All the mountain can do is just sit and see the clouds. So the second part of the saying, trusta, which is very similar to last week when we said trust tree. And this one is the observer, the seer, but we're just adding onto it this time the finding of oneself. So it just gets a little bit deeper. I left this one from last week because it seems so fitting after thinking of tada, which I didn't know was going to happen in this next one, that it is the mountain here that we see with the clouds moving around it. And this was for sakshi, or to be a witness, or the seer. It's like you observing. So the seer, our consciousness is what witnesses the mind having thoughts. The consciousness can objectively observe these thoughts, where our mind tends to be the product of everything in our external environment. So whatever the stressors that are happening around us, people, work, traffic, it takes in information, it forms opinions, and it makes judgments. And they're not always correct, or sometimes they are. Our consciousness is always, though, internal, and it's consistent. So it is the always, right? The seer, and then the then and the then. And it comes from our true divine self. And it does connect us to our source, and the mind, it then just becomes a tool only that we use, whether expertly or not, and that connects us to the material body in the three-dimensional world. And that is then also connecting to our higher consciousness. Next part, savrup. So this one is change or dissolution. So now we're seeing that it's something, though, even though part of us is permanent and it's always, part is going to move through a change. So when we move through the gunas, and we do this without dominance. So for anyone that doesn't know the gunas, there's 3 of them, and they kind of move us through different states of mind, body, and sort of action. We'll talk about that more in a second, but this also then, this word is talking about one's own true nature. And again, going back to the divine and witnessing, like, who are we really and what are we doing with our mind and our body? And then this one also talks about flux and matter, which I think is interesting, because when you lose connection and you live in your egotism, and so now you become only your mind and your body, and you lose consciousness with your divine purpose, you lose the potential to really manifest in the material world. And so this one, when they talk about the flux and matter, once you go back to your true nature, you are going to have a change, and it can be material as well. So this is how come you see sometimes people have like spontaneous remissions, or why some people, because of their thought process, get worse and sick, and maybe get worse than they would have if they had a more positive outlook. And then this is also how you see some people can really change over time, right? Like some people manage to lose a lot of weight and to, overcome some injury, and then other people's don't. And I think that because there's this change and moving through dissolution, and then it actually has like a physical change in matter. So when we find our true nature, so here we are informed that our true nature will be found in the dissolution of identification of our mind and body. And as we move through the gunas, and there are three foundational ways that we are relating to the material world, can think of as like actions, thoughts, and our body. So we move from inertia, which is the lowest of them, and inertia would be when we're so depressed that we don't even want to get up, we don't want to do anything, that we kind of feel like, well, what's the point? So we have like this like sluggish, thick viscosity where we're not really moving easily anymore, right? We have dukkha in our life, which is like uneasy space. Then a lot of us move from there at some point and we get into overactivity. So this is a lot of the world now. We absorb so much information. We always have a to-do list and we're racing from work to activities to kids' events and home to clean, to cook, laundry. There's not a lot of time to really think about our true nature, to meditate, because we're so busy in the doing. So when we honestly reach the last one, which is purposeful action, or sattva, so this is where we want to live, where we are still able to set goals for ourselves, we're still able to move forward, but we're not just frantic about it. It's purposeful, it's thoughtful, and it's effective. So the action is actually achieving something, not just spinning our wheels all the time. So once we achieve this state, we can manifest our true potential, because now we're really tapped into like an antenna into source, like letting us know where we need to be, what we should be doing, when to pull back, when to change course. We have much more intuition. Okay, so the last part was vastanam. So this one talks about stability and the setting, being in a state of being. So we're resting, we're lying, and we're abiding somewhere. We're dwelling somewhere. So this is now that we've chosen a place to kind of rest at and to provide some kind of structure and form. So in this state of being, this is where Patanjali guides us on the outcome of yoga. So when we concentrate, we gain this restful state of stillness, and this allows us a glimpse into our true self. This is the time where we're still enough to really connect. And this word abide or abode gives the feeling of living in this quiet, restful state. But I want to keep in mind here that like our body, which ages and it changes over time. So we're born, we age, we die. Also, we can have injury and recover. We can have a state of health, but then become diseased. And our mind also fluctuates wildly. And that happens not just over time, but I mean like in moments and seconds it happens. And our concentration is also modifiable. So sometimes we can really focus on a task, and sometimes we have really great meditations, and other days we got the monkey mind. It's a lot of thinking. We can't really focus, too many distractions. So, the predominant guna that we're living in, and then we are exhibiting it at any time, it also changes and fluctuates. So sometimes we have really achieved this purposeful action, and other times we slide back. We have something that happens to us again. We lose focus. And also it can just be for different times and place in your life. So, you might be really having purposeful action in your relationship or your marriage because you put a lot of time there, but you're kind of finding that your finances have slipped, or maybe some of your friendships, other things. So it's not that there's this permanent state of being, but we're trying to achieve it, right? So we're always moving towards it. And when we're actually getting glimpses of our true nature, that's when we've rested in this state of being. It doesn't mean we're going to stay there forever, but we've chosen now to still the mind, to find this place of concentration, and then we're gonna sit there and experience our true self. So here are some of the versions of translation that I could find. So in a state of yoga, the seer rests in its true nature. And again, saying rest too, again, it's the true nature is the immovable part, because our consciousness doesn't change. The state of yoga is the concentration. But when we rest, we get this feeling that we're not going to stay there forever. We're just staying there temporarily while we are in this state, but we might be changed again. So we're going to keep growing our practice. Okay, and for this one, at the time of concentration, the soul abides in the state of spectator without spectacle. Now, I really like this one because I think it actually adds a whole new layer now. So not only are we saying here that at the time that we're practicing meditation or we're practicing yoga, that our soul or our true nature is resting or abiding in this state of stillness where we get to see our true nature. But we got this with this. We don't have. So we're having that we're watching and seeing it, but we're also doing it here without a spectacle. So now we're starting to think about how we have non-attachment. So when we have sattva or purposeful action, it's good that we're growing towards something. We want to have effective, meaningful action. But we also can't be so caught up in the outcomes that then we get so upset when we're not controlling the situation or it doesn't work out in the way that we thought, that then it slides us back into like a tapas or any of these like inert states where we're going to be sluggish again or frantic. We want to be able to, even when we're watching these things and we're setting these goals, if they don't work out, it's not a spectacle. It's not the end of the world. We're getting some perspective on things. This one's simple but sweet. So we dwell in our own nature. And I like this because dwelling, you can have where you dwell in your home, but you still can go out once in a while. So even though we're trying to make our home or our mind still as much as possible, we also are open here to the fact that we can come outside of this once in a while. So concentration. So although we're aiming to gain a state of yoga or concentration through meditation, it also translates into the rest of our life. So once we gain insight into our nature, it becomes easier to navigate the three-dimensional reality that we live in. And so having concentration for meditation definitely helps you to maintain patience, maybe in traffic or when you're cooking dinner and maybe a lot of things are going on, the phone's ringing, the kids are fighting, dogs barking. This idea that you can just observe it from the outside without it being a spectacle really does give us this state of being that is improved in all areas of life. So Patanjali in these first 3 sutras has really set a lot of information really quickly in a few sentences. So in the first sutra, we really understood that we're going to be starting now and we're setting a focus and discipline to move on the path of yoga. In the second one, we were getting the intention of practicing yoga. So we're trying to, still the fluctuations of our mind. But now this one really defines yoga and now explain how it is achieved. So I look forward to meeting back again to review Sutra 1.4 to see what other gems of wisdom that we can gain. In the meantime, please subscribe to my channel, hit the like button and share as this will help promote me in the algorithms. You can also find me at energyovermatter.com where I do offer yoga and meditation classes as well as pulsed electromagnetic field therapy for those people that might need a little bit of extra cellular energy healing. So until the next video, have a blessed week. Namaste.